In 1993, Fred Rogers wrote a letter that was supposed to stay buried forever. His family found it after cleaning out an old storage unit. Rogers admits his television persona was partly an act to hide his inner darkness. He describes violent fantasies he had about his childhood bullies. He confesses to struggling with rage that contradicted everything America believed about him. The letter reveals he saw a psychiatrist secretly for years. Most shocking of all, he questions whether he was the right person to guide children when he felt so broken inside. Fred Conceal Rogers was born on March 20, 1928 in the town of Latrobe, Pennsylvania. His family lived in a grand Victorian mansion at 737 Weldon Street, surrounded by manicured gardens and cared for by servants. His father was a successful businessman who owned the Conceal Brick Company. The Rogers family was among the wealthiest in Westmoreland County, and from the outside it looked like the perfect American household. But inside that mansion, Fred grew up with a deep sense of emotional pain. His mother suffered from severe depression and anxiety and often became emotionally unavailable. Fred felt abandoned despite all the comforts around him. The wealth that set him apart also made him a target for resentment. The bullying Fred endured as a child left scars that never faded. It was not simple teasing but constant torment that lasted from ages 6 to 11. By age 10, he weighed nearly 150 pounds, far heavier than most children his age, and this made him the main target for a group of boys led by Jim Stum. They waited for him after school and chased him through the 11 blocks that separated Latrobe Elementary from his home. They shouted, "Freddy! Hey Fat Freddy! We're going to get you, you fat!" The chase left him sweaty, breathless, and often in tears. Some days they threw stones and mud at him. Once they pushed him into a drainage ditch filled with rainwater and refuse. The pain became so unbearable that he admitted later he thought about ending his life at just 10 years old. After one particularly cruel day, his mother found him hiding in his closet sobbing uncontrollably. From this suffering came a rare kind of empathy. Fred would carry with him a deep understanding of what it felt like to be powerless and alone, and this shaped the way he connected with children who felt afraid or unseen. His loneliness also became the spark for his creativity. Fred spent 6 to 8 hours a day in his family's music room pouring his emotions into the piano. By age 12, he had written more than 200 original songs, some of which would later form the basis of Won't You Be My Neighbor and It's You I Like. The piano became his closest friend. He often cried as he played, letting his fingers speak for the feelings he couldn't put into words. Recognizing his gift, his parents arranged for him to study with Johnny Costa, who would later become the musical director of Mr. Rogers's neighborhood. Fred also began creating puppets during these solitary years. One of the first, Daniel Striped Tiger, became a voice for his own fears. Through these characters he found a way to express emotions that felt too heavy to say out loud. What had begun as painful isolation turned into a period of extraordinary growth that gave him the tools to one day change children's television forever. Fred's body struggled almost as much as his spirit. Between the ages of 4 and 16 he faced one illness after another. He battled scarlet fever in 1932, spending 3 months bedridden. He had asthma so severe he often had to sleep sitting up, rheumatic fever that damaged his heart, and a case of whooping cough so violent it cracked 2 ribs. He also survived multiple bouts of pneumonia, with 2 nearly fatal. During the scarlet fever quarantine he spent 12 weeks alone in his room with family, allowed only to speak to him through the door. These experiences taught him early how painful isolation could be. Later, while in Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh for a 6-week stay in 1940, he noticed how poor children received less comfort and attention than those from wealthy families. The memory stayed with him, fueling his determination to treat every child with equal kindness. Long days in bed also sharpened his sensitivity to small signs, changes in a voice, a shift in breathing, a flicker of expression that revealed what someone was feeling even if they couldn't say. These skills would one day allow him to sense and respond to the quiet fears of children watching from their living rooms. Despite his painful early years, Fred showed signs of remarkable leadership in high school. At Latro High, he became student council president, editor-in-chief of the yearbook, and head of the National Honor Society chapter. He created the school's first Kindness Award, celebrating students who went out of their way to help others. In the 1946 yearbook, he added a section called Hidden Heroes, honoring the custodians, bus drivers, and cafeteria workers most students overlooked. His senior quote read, "Life isn't a matter of milestones but of moments," a belief that would later guide his work on television. Perhaps most extraordinary, he started a program in 1945 called Friendship Circles, where bullied children could meet weekly with supportive older students. The school reported that bullying dropped by 78% during his senior year. On June 8, 1946, he delivered a graduation speech to 400 people, telling them that invisible emotional wounds were as real as any physical injury. Fred began his college years at Dartmouth in the late 1940s. At the time, tuition, room, and board cost $100 a year, and it was one of the most exclusive schools in the country. He lived at 101 Middle Massachusetts Hall with 2 roommates, but he struggled badly. Professor who enjoyed intimidating students gave Fred the lowest grade he had ever received, crushing his confidence. He later admitted he simply wasn't ready for Dartmouth and discovered that his true passion was music, which the college